Our topic is starting capital for startups, and our two guests here come at this from quite different perspectives, but I think that's going to be rather valuable. So just to give you a very brief introduction, Balderton, and you can correct me if I get any of this wrong, you're focused on tech ventures in Europe, largely, making early stage and growth investments with about 9 billion under management. And some of your greatest hits include Revolut, others in fintech, cyber, gaming, a very wide span of industries. Kickstarter is a fabulous crowdfunding platform. Everette, incidentally, if you didn't read the CEO signal this morning, features in my newsletter and online on Semafor this morning, after a great interview we had not long ago in New York. Cumulatively, you've now raised $8.7 billion, 100 million pledges for 277,000 projects. Among those are Aura, who are here with us at the World Economy Summit, Peloton, Allbirds, Oculus Rift, etc. So I think that gives you a bit of a sense of the two different perspectives here. But I'm going to cruelly ask you to tell the audience why your model is better than the other guy's model. I'm going to start with you, Everette. What's the advantage of the Kickstarter model for startups?
Well, thank you everybody for being here today. I really appreciate your time. I think the advantage of Kickstarter, I wouldn't say that it's better, it's just different. And I think one of the advantages of a Kickstarter is the ability to not dilute yourself as a founder or CEO. Kickstarter is reward-based crowdfunding, so you don't give any of your equity away when building your company. We've all heard horror stories from founders who lose their companies due to getting big percentages of their company being taken away. And so we kind of keep founders safe in that sense, that they can build a company, get capital for their business, be able to release products without having to dilute themselves. I think the other advantage of Kickstarter is that there's a ready-made audience on the platform. You know, oftentimes 60, 70, 80% of the funding comes from organically on the platform for a lot of our creators.
These just regular...
These are people that are just going to want to support new products and things on the platform. And even at the bare minimum, we're seeing, 25, 30%. So that's still a lot of great organic traffic that is coming to your platform of people that may not know what you're doing. And so that is very, very helpful. It also gives you a central place to really galvanize and cultivate your audience as well. During a time with social media algorithms becoming more difficult, people are clicking on emails less. I tell people that Kickstarter is a place where your core audience, that's where your core audience is. And a lot of the creators and entrepreneurs using our platform are continuing to release products over time. We were talking about Peak Design recently, who just dropped a new product. That company's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They just dropped a new product where they sold $13 million worth of inventory, right? So people are continuing to use that platform over time instead of just a one-off.
Right, okay. So not better, just different.
Yeah.
Balderton's model, what's the advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think our model is very complementary to the Kickstarter model. I mean, we love when companies are kickstarted. We actually are after, and then we're going to enable them to grow throughout the entire journey. We do from seed to IPO. We have the growth stage, so we'll do a seed Series A, then Series B, Series C during the growth phase. So we'll be there for the long duration. The reality also, I think Kickstarter, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but applies more to certain products, probably more to physical product maybe than to digital products. We do a lot more digital services and actual physical products.
Right. So what's, from the two different perspectives you have, what is the kind of current health of the funding ecosystem for startups? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I would say in Europe, I think the fundamentals are very good right now, and they've completely changed compared to where they were 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, there was only like 40 billion of VC investment in European startups. Today, it's 10x, so 430 billion. We have multiplied the number of unicorns. We have 360, we had about 30 or 40 10 years ago. So I think in general, the momentum around the tech ecosystem is terrific, and we see a lot of really exciting, high-quality projects. So as long as, as a venture firm, as long as you have a fund that you've managed to raise, which we did last year, we raised about 1.3 billion, we have now 2 to 3 years to invest, so we're feeling very good shape.
So you've got a choice about when to put that money to work. Is this the right moment, or is it too uncertain?
No, I think it's the right moment. I mean, we're not too dependent on a particular moment in time, because our companies are going to develop over a period of 10 to 15 years. So we play on long cycles. We're usually, our success is based on disruption that will actually go through cycles. It's not really based on an economic cycle.
Okay. So Everette, remind us what the rough sort of geographic split is, first of all, of the activity, the funding activity on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. is our largest market. Well, it depends on how you're looking at it, because we have two sides of the marketplace. We have the creators that are launching, and that's all over the world, and obviously the people that are backing, that's all over the world. But the markets that stand out the most for us is U.S., U.K., and actually China.
Right.
Are the three biggest markets for us.
Okay. And so what does the kind of appetite look like right now in those major markets for funding projects?
I mean, it's growing rapidly. I mean, when you look at the U.S., for example, when there's tough macroeconomic times, people tend to get a lot more creative. Also, the world is changing, especially with the new generation. You know, they're not growing up saying, I want to work a 9 to 5. They want to be creators. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to do something different. They don't aspire always to be doctors and lawyers like, you know, kids did before. They are aspiring to be independent. And with the advances in technology, it's more advantageous than ever. And so we're seeing more people launch on Kickstarter. We just got a note from my head of China who said, like, the mark used to be like $1 million was like considered a successful campaign. Now campaigns in China are saying 5 million USD is a success, because people are raising more money, people are being more successful, people are opting to build careers within the creator economy like never before, and Kickstarter is really at the center of all that. The other thing that I would say is that just all the infrastructure, from music to film, et cetera, when it becomes more challenging, Kickstarter becomes, you know, it benefits Kickstarter. When VC money and when people aren't putting out VC dollars, especially for physical products, which tend to be a little bit harder, Kickstarter becomes the kind of go-to place for that.
It's sort of, you've clearly, it seems to me that you've kind of repositioned Kickstarter or clarified its focus around this creator economy. You know, obviously you're still working with a lot of projects which are, you know, great physical products in the end, like an Ur or whatever. But is this creator economy widening how we should think about the definition of startups?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, you just see it within the education system. Like, I'm about to give the commencement speech at VCU, and I went and visited some of the students, and you know, the things that they were talking about, like they're all having different types of majors, but they're all talking about being creators. They're all talking about building businesses and building brands. And so I think Kickstarter, it's important for Kickstarter to really embrace that, because I think that space is widening, and also they need the tools to be successful. And that's why when I came into Kickstarter, I was like, I want us to be more than a crowdfunding platform. I want us to be a true power player in the creator economy. And so we've built tools not only just for crowdfunding, but before you launch a business, and now after you launch a product, post-campaign tools, fulfillment tools, et cetera. So we want to be that kind of all-in-one place for creators when they're launching new products and new businesses.
To that point about not just creating a flow of capital, but actually adding something to that. What are the, Balderton's not just bringing money to the table when you invest in a startup. What do you find is actually most valuable of what you bring? You're bringing the expertise of the team, but what else are you bringing? Is it tools? Is it?
Well, there's a few things. I think first, of course, we need to help them grow to become a global leader. And when you start in Paris or Berlin, it's not necessarily easy to figure out how am I going to attack the international markets. Should I, if I start in Paris, should I go to Germany after, or the UK, or should I go to the US? If I go to the US, it's a different way of doing business. And we have had the chance to be on the side of companies that have done that expansion. And so we can help them recruit the right people, put in place the right model from a legal standpoint, from a organization design standpoint, and so on and so forth. So we do that, of course. The other thing is one thing that is particular to Balderton, which is we have recognized over the few decades that we've been in operation that the journey of an entrepreneur is a very difficult one, is a hard one, and about half of the entrepreneurs end up doing a burnout. And if they do a burnout, a full one, because it's too much pressure, they have to work really, really hard. And I think the concept so far has been, well, if you want to succeed, if you want to be a great entrepreneur, you need to work 24/7. And the reality is you can't, right? And if you think, the way we think about entrepreneurs is the same way we've been thinking about professional athletes. And if you think of professional athlete, you don't say you have to play or compete all day, all night. You have to sleep well, you have to feed yourself well, you have to have good mental health, so you have to have coaching and all this. So we've built basically a well-being and performance program for founders, where we have a group of doctors around them who work on their fitness, on their sleep, on their nutrition. We have leadership development. We have peer support through CEO forums, and so we have this whole ecosystem that we build, and the entrepreneurs love it because suddenly they feel that they have an actual support system around them.
That's fascinating. It also reminds me of the conversation we had about the very unusual working arrangements you have at Kickstarter. Can you just share the details of those, Everette?
They are evolving. So Kickstarter is the only major tech company with a wall-to-wall union. So our company unionized in 2020. Before I was there, I didn't screw that one up. And then also we have a 4-day work week, also before my time. And so we have a very unique way in which we work. We're also fully remote. We just sold our office. And so we have a fully remote team all across the US, Canada, China, Europe, et cetera, et cetera.
Is that 4-day week sort of helping avoid burnout in your own team?
I think it's really dependent on the person and how they manage their time. I think actually a 4-day work week, if you don't manage it well, can burn you out even more because you're trying to fit so much more in a condensed week,
right?
Where you need that Friday or that 5th day because it's so exhausting. I work 7 days a week. I can't really tell the difference. But I think it just really depends on the person.
Okay. So let's get back to the capital side of this. Bernard, you led the first European tech IPO on NASDAQ back in 1994. I think there's been anxiety in Europe every year since then that it's not Silicon Valley, that the sort of funding ecosystem for startups is somehow falling behind or has fallen behind the US. Do European entrepreneurs still dream of landing that first big Silicon Valley investor as their mark of having made it?
Well, it's changing. I think it's still very much a mark of success. But the model is evolving. I think initially the model was you start in Europe, you get maybe initial seed capital from a European investor, and then quite rapidly you want to get US money, you want to start US operations. Probably you're going to have to move your headquarters to the US, because then you will be, at the end of the journey, you'll go public in the US, or you'll be acquired by a US large corporation. That model is changing now because we've seen a few European companies managing to be global leaders out of Europe. So the Spotify, the Adyen, the SML, and these kind of businesses. Revolut is in this case as well. And so we're starting to see the model changing, where now you start in Europe. Yeah, you're going to expand internationally. US is going to be one. But instead of moving and building your management team in the US, you're going to stay in Europe. You're going to attract maybe Americans or others to build your team in Europe. And you're going to continue to develop your capital infrastructure with global money, but Europe will be a very important part of it because now Europe has growth funds and has scale capital. And then the great news about this is that the spin-offs that come out of your company, because they always spin-off coming of successful companies, will be in Europe. So now we're starting to create a virtuous circle where the money and the talent will get reinvested in the same place.
We're in Washington. I should ask a policy question. What have the two of you learned startups need from governments to make entrepreneurs into success stories?
I mean, in my view, what I'm saying to the governments in Europe is like, stay out of the way. So we don't need a lot from you. We need less regulation, harmony between the regulation that you're putting together across the 27 countries in Europe. But we don't need capital from the government. In defense, we need contracts, right? And we need more to evangelize the concept that it's okay to buy from small companies. But that's probably it.
And by the way, you are investing in defense now.
We do invest in defense, and what will make defense startups successful is if, again, the military in the various countries in Europe are ready to buy from them.
Everette, do you need anything? Do your creators need anything to spur that entrepreneurial ecosystem from government?
Yeah, I think it's just an open ear and empathy. I think sometimes you can't forget what it's like to be someone that's, you're not in their shoes. And I think that these entrepreneurs really just need a way to just make their dreams come true and not have too much involvement. I mean, we're seeing the impact on our business just from what's going on with tariffs, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that lacks some empathy, especially for so many small business owners and the margins that they have. And so I think we just need an open ear and empathy from government.
So both of you are in the flow of entrepreneurial talent. You're meeting a lot of entrepreneurs every day. Do you see something different in the next generation of entrepreneurs?
I guess I could say it. I think the thing that I see from this next generation is that, I think they're trying to be leaner than the generations before. I hear a lot of new entrepreneurs that are speaking about building billion-dollar companies, utilizing AI and having less than 50 employees or less than 100 employees. And before it was like, how many employees can we get and how much capital can we raise? And, we want to raise $200 million or whatever. And I hear more and more entrepreneurs wanting to be smarter with the capital that they're raising, have more ownership in their companies, and continue to be a lot more lean.
Do you see a generational shift?
I think I see two things. One is that in Europe specifically, the entrepreneurs are more ambitious than the prior generation, so they want to build more bigger, more global companies. But I think something that maybe is European is they want to build good companies, responsible companies that have good values, and that remains, and that are planet sensible. So I think we see a lot of that.
Yeah. Final question: what's the coolest startup you've each seen recently?
Wow, coolest startup I've seen recently.
We're working with a company called the Exploration Company, which is a space tech business trying to build a European SpaceX, led by a wonderful woman. She's building a capsule now, and then she's going to move to the launcher. There's lots of incredible tech that she's built.
You get a ticket to ride if you invest.
Well, for now, no human in the capsule, so I won't go there. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what's the coolest thing I've seen, because I get to see so many cool things. I won't say a particular product, but I do like the number of robotics and AI that we're seeing on the platform of people just having very creative uses. I mean, we even had someone create a whole album with AI robots, so that's been really, really interesting to watch on the platform.
All right. We'll be back next year with the AI robots and hopefully Bernard and Everette as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.